Hello, I'm Shoestring Jane. Welcome back to my channel. Here I talk about all things thrifty and frugal and money saving. And today I've been thinking about how we teach our children to develop frugal habits, how we make them good with money. How can you do that? It was prompted by a question somebody asked on my Facebook group, My Secondhand Frugal Life, whether any of our children had taken after us and developed our frugal habits, and my response was, amongst many, was yes, they had. They liked to bargain, and moreover I think I developed frugal habits from my parents. So that was an interesting discussion, an interesting thread, and it made me think about how you can really develop that in your children and deliberately enable them to be better with money and not make maybe some of your money mistakes. So here are my thoughts anyway. I think the first and probably the most obvious way to teach your children good money habits is to lead by example. So, if you get anything you want on credit and you've always got debts and you're always worrying about bills and that kind of thing, they're going to think that that's the norm. Whereas if they see you sitting down and budgeting, and if you talk to them about money and you explain that, you can only afford so much and maybe you buy second hand and you have other frugal habits, they will think that that's normal and they'll follow you. So whatever you do in life, your children will tend to follow your example. So set a good example. That would be my first pointer. And I don't know if this is just a British thing or if it's international. We don't tend to like to talk about money. So, my parents didn't really talk to me about money. I picked up odd things that made me think we didn't have a lot of money and sometimes made me worry about that. So I think talking to your children about money is really important. Be really open and honest. Say, look, this is my budget. I'm doing a budget this month. I put rent here or mortgage or whatever. I put the utility bills here. This is how much I've got for spending. You don't have to go into great detail, and you could obviously decide what age that would be appropriate at, but just generally talking about money. So explaining that at the moment you don't have enough pennies to buy such and such, so you are going to save up, or just making children understand that money is a finite resource and that you do have to take care with it, and that you budget and the things you do in order to do that, whether that's writing a shopping list and sticking to it and meal planning, or explaining your frugal choices, or buying secondhand, whatever it is. If you talk to your children about money and be open and honest about what you're doing, then they'll learn from you. The third thing I would do to teach children about money would be to let them make mistakes with money whilst it doesn't matter. So give them an allowance from an early age and don't micromanage what they do with that allowance. Let them make decisions, and sometimes let them make bad decisions. So let them waste money on something and then they'll regret maybe that they've spent all of their allowance on day one and don't have anything to last the rest of the week. So let them make those mistakes. Don't wait until they leave home or go to university or something like that for them to start making their money mistakes. Let them do it when it really doesn't matter, and then discuss it. You can talk about it. And the other thing is, I wish that personal finance was a topic, I've said this before, in the schools. And I know schools have so much to do already, but I really think it's such an important subject that we should all be learning about personal finance, just very basically. So what is an interest rate? What does it mean to have a bad credit rating? How do you improve your credit rating? If you borrow money, why would a bank lend you that? That's because they're going to charge you to actually pay it back. So, the value of maybe saving up rather than borrowing money. Just how do mortgages work? How do pensions work? Just a very, very basic thing. What would happen if they saved a certain amount a month over a long period, and the power of compound interest maybe. So just those kind of things, just let it be a topic. I think it's kind of vaguely brushed over during maths lessons, but I think if it was a topic in its own right that was taken seriously, it didn't have to have an exam at the end of it, but that we taught children it was an important subject area in its own right, then some of that's going to sink in and maybe affect some of the decisions they make as they go through life. Also teach your children about delayed gratification. I don't think it does us any good to just have everything we want the instant we want it. I don't think we appreciate what we've got then, and we don't really learn the value of the money that's gone into getting those things. So if your children have an allowance and they want a particular toy but it's more than their allowance and they have to save their money for a few weeks or months in order to buy the things they need, then that's a good lesson in life, isn't it? You can't have everything instantly, but if you save up, you can. You can have the kind of things that you want. So it's that teaching that delayed gratification. They don't have to have everything the instant that they want it. I really don't think spoilt children make really good money people later on. I think there's so much pressure put on our children to have designer brands, to dress in a certain way and to look a certain way, and that's not a good pressure. It's not great for them to feel like, they're second-class citizens if they don't have the latest designer trainers or the latest gadgets or whatever. I think if you can show your children that they don't need designer brands and that they can just have a good quality something, whatever the item is, they can have a good quality thing. And that my dad used to always say when we were growing up, and it's stuck in my head, that you are paying for the name. And he's really right. A lot of the time, branded items are no better than non-branded items, but you are paying for a really good marketing strategy, a marketing team, you're paying for advertising, you're paying for logo design, and that kind of thing. That's what you're paying for. So you are paying for a name. Whereas you can still buy quality items. I'm not saying you have to go and buy a load of rubbish from China, but you can buy decent quality items without having to pay for a really designer, prestigious status name. So maybe try and teach them that. My parents definitely did that. It wasn't so much pressure when I was growing up, but that thing about, don't believe the advertising hype and that kind of thing, it is hype, really stuck in my head. And that's another topic as well, really, is to try and make them understand about advertising and how it works. The advertisers are trying to sell them something. They're not always, well, they have to be truthful, I suppose, factual, but they paint a picture of something that's very idealised, that isn't necessarily going to create the same warm, cosy glow if you have that item as the advertisers suggest. So just let them understand about the power of marketing and advertising, and that they're trying to make you buy a product. The same as if you go into a shop and certain things are at children's height. They're trying to flog to your children, put pressure on you, or they're putting things like the bakery aisle might smell of fresh baked bread, and it's all part of that bid for retailers to make us buy more stuff. So if you can just create a consciousness of that in your children, then they will be savvy to it, so they won't necessarily fall for the marketing hype. Another thing that I tried to do with my own children was to stress the benefits of a frugal lifestyle. So you could show them that you can get more for your money, show them how to get value for their money. So that might mean that they buy a better quality item second hand than they could have afforded to buy new. I mean, that's certainly something that I do. They can get more for their money. They don't have to go for designer brands, as I've just mentioned. They can just shop around and try and get bargains. If they're at a boot sale, they can haggle. I love a bit of haggling. They can go into charity shops and buy good quality items second hand, or even that they can sometimes do without. I mean, then that's a kind of crux, really, isn't it, of a frugal lifestyle? It's quite a crucial part. Sometimes you don't need every single thing that you think you need. You want it, but you don't need it. So teach them that. I would also teach them how to cook. I think if you can cook, you can create a meal much more cheaply than if you can't cook and you're constantly buying takeaways or ping meals. And I think again about some of my friends' children who've gone off to university without that really essential cooking skill. I think there's such a disadvantage then. You can't cook, you can't create something from very little. So you couldn't go in and buy a load of yellow sticker things and just think, oh, I know I can make this kind of meal with that. You can't get the best for your money if you can't cook. So it's really, really worth teaching your children basic cooking skills. I think that's really important. When I was younger, I had to get a part-time job at an early age. My parents just didn't have the money to give us pocket money. They had four children and limited income. We didn't get pocket money, so we didn't get an allowance. However, I did always have a part-time job, so I understood that if I went out to work, I could get some money in, and that was really key. And that improved my confidence, it improved my skills. I'm sure it looked good on my CV when I eventually came to the world of work, full-time work. And the same would be said of my own daughters. They all had part-time jobs. I did give them money from time to time, not a regular allowance as such, but they did have money from me and their dad, but they all got jobs at the earliest opportunity, again because they wanted to earn their own money so they could buy their own stuff. And it goes back to what I said about making their own mistakes as well. So they had their own money, they made their own mistakes with money. They also have all said to me that it was such a massive advantage, particularly after uni. They had friends who went to university, had never had a job, went right through university without a job. And when they came postgraduate to trying to get a job, they were in competition with people like my daughters who already had work experience. And some of them didn't have any work experience. So from that point of view, it was good. So encourage them to do some part-time work if they can, even if that's just doing some work for you or for a family member. Get them to do part-time work and earn their own money. You can teach your children to be savvy shoppers when you go to the supermarket as well. So when mine was small, I would keep them occupied and stop them being a nuisance by talking to them about different brands and what I was buying. So you can use it as an opportunity to show them why you make your decisions around the food buying that you do. It doesn't have to be food as well, anything really, but if you're thinking about the supermarket, about food maybe. So you could perhaps say, well, I'll buy these value onions because they taste no different to these more expensive onions. But they're much cheaper. So that's my decision there. However, I choose to buy a particular brand of tea or coffee because I think it really tastes nicer. And I don't want to just buy the cheapest when it's not very nice. So, for example, I would never buy the value tea bags. They're just not strong enough. I don't like them. I'm not going to buy something I don't like. I would rather have a really good brand of tea bags, but I would look for them on offer. So I would talk to my children about that kind of thing. So it's worth just kind of creating that sense that they can make those decisions early on. And it also gives you an opportunity, particularly with younger children, to teach them about money. You can get them to add up some prices and a little bit of independence. I used to get mine to go off within my sight, but to go off and get me such and such from the shelf and that kind of thing. And it just makes shopping so much less stressful. Shopping with kids can be horrific. You'll know that with smaller children. They want this, they want that, they want that. If you keep them occupied, make it part of the process, it's a learning opportunity, but it also helps you to retain your sanity. So if you're at the point where you're trying to pay off debts, your children have not learnt about frugality, and you're constantly fighting because they want this, this, this. They want everything. Their friends have got it. They want it. You've always said yes to them in the past, but now you're trying to pay off debts. Then just be honest with them. You don't want them to worry. Don't pass on your anxiety about money, but you could say, well, I've taken control of my money now, and I've done this budget, and this is what I can afford, and this is all we're spending. And this is a valuable lesson for them so that they don't get into debt and make the same mistakes that you've made. I've made them too. I'm not saying that everybody else is making mistakes except me. I have made massive money mistakes in the past, and I certainly wasn't the best example in all ways for my own children. I've said in previous videos that I bought a holiday on a credit card once, and I did Christmas a couple of years in a row on credit, and then spent the next few months after Christmas really worrying and thinking, oh, I've just got to pay off this debt. And I don't wish that on my children. So I just say be honest with them without passing on the anxiety. Use every opportunity to teach them. See it as a positive thing. You're teaching them some really good financial habits for their future, and that way they'll be able to achieve perhaps what they want to achieve. Maybe they'll be able to save up to buy their own property earlier. Maybe they will be able to go and do a job that they love that isn't particularly well paying, but that they really enjoy, rather than going to a job that pays well that they hate every day. They can make those kind of decisions. They can develop an emergency fund. They can do all the things that make a good solid frugal foundation for anybody as they reach adulthood. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and please leave your comments below. How do you teach your children about frugality? Have they followed in your footsteps? Are they savvy shoppers? Let me know and we can start the discussion. See you again soon. Bye for now.